Hey everyone, welcome back to RJK English and our final video of Siddhartha. Siddhartha has taught Govinda everything, a lot of things. This is quite a deep chapter, and we should really discuss it, and that can only come from you asking questions. Okay? So if you have questions, put them in the comments here. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Maybe talk about it with your friends. Have them watch this, and you can have a discussion. And go to RJK English on Facebook, and we can have even more discussion on this. Okay, but let's finish this off. You might hear my cat talking. It's the time of day when she starts getting verbose. Okay, so Govinda doesn't understand what Siddhartha said, but he asks him for a final word. And what does Siddhartha do? He says, "Come closer," and then he says, "Kiss my forehead." Govinda does, and something happens. Let's see, go back. Uh, okay, while he was still dwelling on the strange words, let's see, where are we at? Okay, so he did touch Siddhartha's forehead with his lips while he was still dwelling on Siddhartha's words, while he strove in vain to dispel the conception of time, to imagine nirvana and samsara as one. While even a certain contempt for his friend's words conflicted with a tremendous love and esteem for him, this happened to him. He no longer saw the face of his friend Siddhartha. Instead, he saw other faces, many faces, a long series, a continuous stream of faces, hundreds, thousands, which all came and disappeared, and yet all seemed to be there at the same time, which all continually changed and renewed themselves, and which were yet all Siddhartha. Where have we seen this before? In the river, right? And what is the river? The river's outside time. So what is happening to Siddhartha? Well, Govinda is having an experience. And if you read South Asian literature, even modern literature, this will sometimes happen. It is almost like in the Bible when God reveals who he really is, and it's beyond imagining. But it is also like in the Bhagavad Gita. If you read the Bhagavad Gita from the Mahabharata, Krishna does this. He reveals himself. He gives teachings to Arjuna, and then finally he reveals himself to Arjuna that he is really the god Vishnu. And Arjuna sees a vision. He sees the whole world, and he sees how humongous Krishna is, right? That is very typical of South Asian literature and religion, and even books lately. There, I can think of a modern book now that's like this. Okay, and I think it was called Vishnu. Okay, so he saw the face of a fish, of a carp, with tremendous painfully opened mouth, a dying fish with dimmed eyes. He saw the face of a newly born child, red and full of wrinkles, ready to cry. He saw the face of a murderer, saw him plunge a knife into the body of a man. At the same moment, he saw this criminal kneeling down, bound, and his head cut off by an executioner. He saw the naked bodies of men and women in the postures and transports of passionate love. He saw corpses stretched out, still, cold, empty. He saw the heads of animals, boars, crocodiles, elephants, oxen, birds. He saw Krishna and Agni. We notice Krishna is in here. He saw all the forms and faces in 1,000 relationships to each other, all helping each other, loving, hating, and destroying each other, and becoming newly born. Each one was mortal, a passionate, painful example of all that is transitory. What is transitory? Things that exist for a moment. All of our experiences are transitory. They come into being and then they go away, just like a river. Yet none of them died. They only changed, were always reborn, continually had a new face. Here's that circle again. Only time stood between one face and the other. Remember, time is an illusion. Time is between these things. And all these forms and faces rested, flowed, reproduced, swam past, and merged into each other. And over all, there was continually something thin, unreal, and yet existing, stretched across like thin glass or ice, like a transparent skin, shell, form, or mask of water. And this mask was Siddhartha's smiling face, which Govinda touched with his lips at that moment. Just like Siddhartha looked into the river, right? And saw these things, but the river was still there. And Govinda saw this mask-like smile, this smile of unity over the flowing forms, this smile of simultaneousness over the thousands of births and deaths. This smile of Siddhartha was exactly the same as the calm, delicate, impenetrable, perhaps gracious, perhaps mocking, wise, thousandfold smile of Gautama the Buddha, as he perceived it with awe 100 times. It was in such a manner, Govinda knew, that the perfect one smiled. Has Siddhartha reached enlightenment? It seems he has, right? And tragically, this is when he's supposed to go back to his father, but his father's dead, which is really an understated tragedy of this book. An understated tragedy of this book. No longer knowing whether time existed, whether this display had lasted a second or 100 years, whether there was a Siddhartha or a Gautama, a self or others, wounded deeply by a divine arrow which gave him pleasure, deeply enchanted and exalted, Govinda stood yet a while bending over Siddhartha's peaceful face, which he had just kissed, which had just been the stage of all present and future forms. Let's go back for 1 second. A self and others, wounded deeply by a divine arrow which gave him pleasure. If you want to understand Sufism, that is a statement for you that will help you understand Sufism. The idea of fana, there's this idea that the moth seeks the flame, right? A moth goes after light, and often they die in the flame or in a bug catcher. They experience fana. They are destroyed in love. That a wound is something that is pleasurable, given by God. There's this idea in Hinduism, especially Upanishadic Hinduism, as I understand it, and in Sufism as well. Okay, going back. His countenance, Siddhartha, was unchanged after the mirror of the thousandfold forms had disappeared from the surface. He smiled peacefully and gently, perhaps very graciously, perhaps very mockingly, exactly as the illustrious one had smiled. Govinda bowed low. Incontrollable tears trickled down his old face. He was overwhelmed by a feeling of great love, of the most humble veneration. He bowed low, right down to the ground, in front of the man sitting there motionless, whose smile reminded him of everything that he had ever loved in his life, of everything that had ever been of value and holy in his life. Who is Govinda? He's you and me. Right? We aren't Siddhartha. Siddhartha's like a god. We are Govinda. We are the people that never truly reach that stage, right? And so we end the chapter and we end the book. And Hesse set it up so that just like Govinda, we walk away with this knowledge. And now we have to figure out what do we do with it. Yeah, very interesting. Remember to think critically. This isn't all truth, right? It's not like this is the Bible. If you maybe believe the Bible is true, it's not. The Quran. It's not. It is a book, and it's trying to explain something, but it rings true for me in a lot of ways. It doesn't ring true in other ways. So just to give you one example, that death and life are the same. Can you say that for someone that was in the Holocaust? What about someone that is in an area that is oppressed right now? What about in Syria or in Yemen where they're being bombed almost out of existence? Could you say that, oh, death and life are the same? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But I'm not ready to see that yet. I'm not ready to see that. Because I'm not going to downplay the horror of those things, right? I'm not going to downplay the horror of what happens in my city, where my city allows there to be lead poisoning of African Americans that are the majority of the city, and poor people, many of whom are African Americans. Poor people, they allow them to get lead poisoning. Do you know what that does to your mind? You know, I I'm not ready for that. And maybe we never should be. You should think about it. Okay? But I think there is a truth in this. And I think this will live with you. If you're young, later you'll think about Siddhartha who lived through these times. He's more like us than the Buddha, right? The Buddha is otherworldly. Siddhartha lived through life. And that's the truth I've seen, is that living through life is the only way to live through life. People think, "Oh, I'm not a person that grew up doing drugs." Well, I've known people that grew up doing drugs and they're awesome people. I'm not the person that was a prostitute at one time or something. Well, I've known people that were like that and they're awesome people now. So, whatever you've done in life or whatever has happened to you, you can experience life directly. And through it, you can enjoy life. And you don't have to worry about getting to enlightenment. Live your life. Live your life and be honest with yourself. Be honest. That's the best thing that I ever learned, to accept myself as I was, even when the shame came on about the past or something, to go, yep, that's part of me, and I accept it, and I can live with this, and I can take care of myself. To accept that. And then to accept what my goals were, to accept what I wanted, and to try to pursue these things and mess up. That's the only way to live. Do you love philosophy? Learn about it. Do you love sports? Pursue it. Do it. Right? And love people. And admit when you hate them. Live. Right? So tell me what you think. I'd love to hear it. Write a paper. Send it to me. I will read it and check it. I'll check your English for you. Okay? I'm not perfect, but I have 2 master's degrees. I might as well put them to use. Okay? Here's the about the author part. If you want to know more about Hermann Hesse, he wrote many great books. I've only read this one. So he was German, and he was born at the end of the 1800s and lived through the early 1900s. He died before World War II. Oh, no, he didn't. He lived through World War II. It would be interesting to see if anything changed after that. It shouldn't just change because of the Holocaust, because the Holocaust for the West is the defining experience of evil. But there were many others. Belgium completely decimated the Congo, killing half the population. 10 million people died because of Belgium. The US decimated and almost destroyed the Native Americans here. And that's happened throughout the Americas. Many of these things have been horrible and happened, but for the West, the Holocaust was the one that woke people up to the reality of evil. Okay, so we'll have to think about these things. I'd love to hear from you, sincerely. Okay, have a great one. Make sure to tell people about this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out the other videos. Are there other books you want to go through? I just adopted some children, and it was approved today. So I'm going to be a father. I am a father of 2 children through, and so this is a momentous day. I will be taking a bit of a break, but I'll come back and maybe we'll go through some more books, and maybe I'll be a different person. All right. I'm scared and excited. All right. I will hopefully talk to you later. All right. Bye.